So here's the thing. It's been quite a few years since I haven't been interested in watching American or British TV shows. And this coming from someone who was a huge fan of Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Roswell, Dark Angel, Charmed, Sex and the City, I would also watch, and then later on The OC, Gossip Girl, you name it. Ever since I started doing shadow work and self-improvement work and really, going deep with my fears, my insecurities, this all started around 2016, 2017, where I did it, more focused. I actually have been doing this kind of work my whole life, but that was the moment when I started to question all of the stuff that I was consuming, especially when it comes to TV. When it comes to TV, there is a very big risk because we enter a hypnotic state when we're watching TV. And that means that whatever it is that you're watching, it enters your subconscious level with much more ease. And that is also the reason why many times you end up dreaming about what you watched. Once I started doing shadow work and I was looking at all of the triggers and all of the insecurities that I carry with me or that I used to carry with me. When you're doing shadow work, you are in a little bit more sensitive state. So you're kind of noticing your triggers much more. You're taking note of that. So whenever something feels uncomfortable or triggering, you're just really aware of that. And you're gonna reflect on it and journal on it and so on. And that was when I noticed how movies and TV shows affected me. Many times immediately after watching a movie or a TV show, I would be a little bit uncomfortable. I would be feeling inadequate or really insecure or even a little bit down, a little bit sad. And I was like, that's weird. Like, I just watched a rom-com. I just watched a fun movie. Why am I feeling like this? Why is it affecting me in a negative sense? And here comes the thing that I realized then. It was because I was watching movies that were not actually made to make women feel adequate. I was watching movies and TV shows that were not showing the female fantasy. They were showing a male fantasy packaged as a female fantasy. I'm gonna give you a few examples. Have you ever watched Sweet Home Alabama? That was a rom-com that I watched growing up. And there you have the typical male fantasy packaged and sold as the female fantasy. This was telling us you want this. So you have in most of these rom-coms very similar scenarios, and you have it in Sweet Home Alabama as well. You have a very successful, young, beautiful woman. She's intelligent, she's funny, she has her life all figured out. She has dreams, but there's one thing missing. Usually she does not have a husband. She's not married yet. And then in Sweet Home Alabama, there you have this beautiful woman, Reese Witherspoon, and she's about to marry the perfect guy. He's rich, he's handsome, and he loves her. But she has to get divorced because she's actually already married. So she has to go back to her hometown and she has to convince her ex-husband to actually divorce her on paper. And that ex-husband is, like this cowboy guy who stayed behind in her hometown. He didn't achieve anything at all in all these years. She ends up canceling her wedding with that perfect guy from New York to end up with that cowboy from her hometown. Now you tell me, where is the fantasy for the woman in this case? This is not a female fantasy. This is a male fantasy. In all rom-coms, or in the majority of them, the average guy with the average job and with average handsomeness gets the amazing, beautiful, smart, and very successful girl. This is not a female fantasy. This is a male fantasy. Another example, you have Notting Hill, where this superstar, beautiful Julia Roberts, ends up with this average guy, Hugh Grant. Like, in what universe is that guy a dream man? He isn't. It's a male fantasy. Then you have The Devil Wears Prada, where this super smart, beautiful woman achieves all of her dreams. Her career is flourishing. She is doing great. And then she gives it all up because her loser boyfriend is jealous of her. And that is supposed to be a happy ending when she gives up all of her dreams to be with that loser boyfriend. So I started to realize, like, this is not what I actually see as a fantasy that is like a happy ending. That is like more of like a terrible ending in most of those rom-coms. Now, if you compare it to K-dramas and C-dramas, you will have a beautiful, handsome, rich millionaire CEO who falls madly in love with an average girl who works a 9 to 5, takes care of her family, is actually a good person. After some hiccups, they get together and they get married. That, ladies and gentlemen, is a female fantasy, okay? It's not the average guy. It's the millionaire who is handsome, who loves her, and who would do anything for her. Even confront his family, confront the system, and fight for their love. That is a female fantasy story. They ended up telling us, oh, you can't have this because that is not realistic. That's not gonna happen. I think we know that it's not realistic. Hollywood is also not actually realistic. Hollywood movies are not reality. We know that. So why are they selling us a lesser than fantasy, telling us, hey, this is what you want. You want to get married to the average guy. You want to give up your career and have babies with this dude who isn't able to even get half of the success that you get. That's what you want. I got sick and tired of that. And there is another thing. Rom-coms, they are actually written by men most of the time, and you can tell. The women are written by men, and the friendships, those are the weirdest parts. Friendships between women, they're often kind of reduced to women talking only about men and also talking about sex quite a lot in a very exaggerated way, which is not empowering at all. It's actually a weird male fantasy. Like, that is what they think that we're talking about. No, we're actually not. We're actually talking about politics. We're talking about who are you gonna vote for. We're talking about deep shit. We've been talking about deep stuff ever since we were 12 years old. But it seems like male writers can't imagine that. They can't really see us having these conversations. So yeah, of course, we only talk about men and having sex with men, obviously. There's another thing. In rom-coms and in TV shows, there is so much focus on sex scenes. I started to get really uncomfortable with that because sex was never shown in a healthy way. They were kind of using sex as a way of ending conflict, for example. The couple is fighting, they scream at each other, they make up, and they have a sex scene, and then everything's fine. That is just so unhealthy. They would show so many unhealthy, weird behaviors that are actually not love. When you look at K-dramas, and here is a huge difference. Because of the cultural differences in East Asia, they don't really show sex scenes in TV, so they're either going to hint that it happened or they're not even going to show that it happened. Even kissing scenes are somewhat rare. Sometimes it happens after like 10 episodes. Sometimes it doesn't even happen. Sometimes they never kiss. But here's the thing, they show love in different ways. They show it through longing, staring. They show it through gestures. They show it through kind things that they do for each other. They show it through conversations, through decisions that they make. But there's a lot of focus on the stares and the touching, even if it's like minimal physical touch. I'm gonna tell you, that is so calming to watch. It is a completely different vibe than watching these aggressive, steamy sex scenes, which nowadays, these sex scenes make me feel uncomfortable, not because I'm a prude, but because I'm thinking of all of the risky situations that the actress was in, maybe being butt naked in front of a bunch of strangers filming her. And we know that many of these actresses are not really safe when they are filming these scenes. So I'm just not very comfortable watching this stuff. In K-dramas and in C-dramas, you don't have that. You have sometimes a few steamy kisses, but I mean, not even that. And it's fine, because love doesn't have to be reduced to only physical stuff that they do with each other. Love can be shown in so many different ways, and that's what they do in K-dramas and in C-dramas, and it feels really, really comfortable and cozy. There's another thing. I don't know why, but Western TV shows, Western movies, they are obsessed with showing sexual violence against women. They love putting that into their TV shows. They love it. It's like, oh, let's put in a little raping scene here. Why not? We love it. It's entertaining. Why do we have to keep watching this? Why do we have to make these vicious acts of violence entertaining? The more we see it, the more normalized it becomes. I'm sick and tired of seeing women in degrading scenes and situations like that. Oh, it's for the plot. It's not necessary to be shown if it's that important for the plot. You can hint it, you can show it in a respectful manner, but you don't have to show all the details. I honestly don't know what's wrong with all these directors who are obsessed with focusing on these kind of scenes. And I'm tired. I don't want to watch that. I find it triggering. I find it humiliating. And I don't want to see that. And I also, again, think of the poor actress who had to go through that. For what? I have seen a bunch of K-dramas where something like that happens and they don't show it. We know that it happened, but they don't show it because it's not necessary. So again, this is something that I noticed when I was doing like my shadow work stuff. I noticed how uncomfortable and how triggering these scenes are, and I refuse to watch that. Another good point for why I love watching C-dramas and K-dramas, because they will never show these type of scenes because it's unnecessary. There's another thing that for me is a huge positive aspect of K-dramas and also C-dramas. The focus on platonic love. The focus on family, on friendship, on companionship. There are so many side characters that are actually important. There's so much focus on mother, father, brother, sister relationships, or actual friendships. And for some reason, we do not have that as much for example, in rom-coms. And I'm always mentioning rom-coms because K-dramas are romantic comedies for the most part. Obviously, nowadays there are so many different K-dramas, and I love all the genres. I love the thrillers, the mysteries, the fantasies. I love all of them, but I'm focusing on the more women-centered stories, which are romantic comedies or melodramas, you can also call them. So that's why I'm saying in rom-coms, in American rom-coms, there is sometimes like 1 or 2 scenes with the family of the woman, but it's almost like an afterthought. It's not really very important to the person and to their story. And it's a complete, contrast to K-dramas and also C-dramas. I have seen so many beautiful stories where, to be quite honest, the romantic storyline wasn't even that moving. The family stories were actually the more emotional ones, which captivated me, and I could really relate to them. This is something that is so important because women are not just focused on men, and romantic comedies are extremely male-centered stories. The woman is after a wedding. The woman has everything, and she could actually be super, super happy, but she is still not happy because she needs a man. She needs a husband. She needs to get married. Even if you look at the Sex and the City movie, Carrie was living the dream life. She was living in New York City. She was wearing the best clothes. She had an amazing job that I don't even know how she paid all of her stuff, but whatever. She had 3 wonderful best friends. She was always going out. She could be the happiest girl in the universe. But instead, she was miserable because she was only after men. That is the difference. When you watch a K-drama, of course, some of them are also going to be focused heavily on a romantic story, but I would say the majority of them, it's either focused on like her work or her family. There's so many other things that are happening, and it's not just the story of the love. And even if it is, it's cozy, it's comfortable. It's written for women to feel safe and to feel happy. It's not written to make women feel inadequate and to feel like, oh, you have to get married as soon as possible to this average weirdo guy, because otherwise you're going to be alone, and ooh, that's terrible. There are so many K-dramas where the focus is actual female friendship, and C-dramas as well. And it's just not friendship focused on talking about men, which is, Sex and the City. It's actual friendship where you talk about other things that happen in your life, because women have other things going on in their lives besides men and getting married. I love watching K-dramas. I love watching C-dramas because they are an actual escape from the harsh reality and the world that we're living in. And we all know how exhausting it can get. You're watching basically the world falling apart every single day through social media. And sometimes you need an escape. You need this safe space where you know that there's not going to be scenes that are going to feel like a nightmare. There's not going to be any degrading, humiliating scene that you're not going to be able to forget. I feel like you should never be ashamed for loving your K-dramas or your C-dramas, because that is actually so good for your mental health. It's so important to have safe spaces. It's important to be able to calm down and let your nervous system calm down. It's so great that we have these TV shows that are actually catered to women, and they're not just focusing on male fantasies. So how did I even start watching K-dramas? It started in 2018. It started with Chinese TV shows. I saw this announcement or this ad for this first Chinese production on Netflix, which was the period piece called The Rise of the Phoenix. At the time, I was researching for my book, which was like a fantasy book. And so I thought, oh, it's gonna be helpful to watch this Chinese period piece, which has like an emperor and all that kind of stuff. And I love watching stuff to kind of inspire me. I watched The Rise of the Phoenix and I was actually really blown away. It was so feminist. It was so different than anything that I had ever watched. I definitely recommend this Chinese TV show. It's amazing. It has, I think, 50 episodes, which is crazy. But the thing is that the rhythm is slow and it's kind of really calming. It's really nice to watch because it's not this like fast-paced thing. I was so impressed by the women in the story. It was really, really feminist. It had so many scenes of female friendship and I just really loved it. It had such a strong female lead. It was beautiful. And then I had to go to Kenya for a month. And when I was there, Netflix had a bunch of Korean TV shows. And back then in Germany, I think there were like 0 Korean dramas on Netflix. I had never seen it. So I was like, oh, okay, I have watched Chinese ones, so I'm just gonna check out these Korean ones. And I was obsessed. I was just in love how short they were because we all know how the quality definitely declines once they get into like the 3rd, 4th, 5th season. I mean, there are some TV shows that have like 20 seasons. We do not need that. Also, in American TV shows, they kind of keep going and they don't even know what to do anymore. So they start to create these weird couples. I mean, in Gossip Girl, everybody dated everyone. It was so strange. And this never happens with K-dramas because they have 1 season and that's it. I love it. From a quality point of view, in terms of storytelling, this is perfect. It has a clear end and it's done and that's it. And I love the urban fantasy K-dramas. I love how they mix these reincarnation tropes, which is probably one of my favorite tropes in books and in movies and TV shows. Ever since that time, I've been watching K-dramas and C-dramas. Of course, I did watch a few American TV shows or British TV shows, but I just don't really feel it, captivates me as much as it does with K-dramas because that is just my safe space. It's my little escape. And I'm having such a good time. I don't think that I'm gonna stop watching it. I'm gonna write my top favorite K-dramas and C-dramas in the description of this video. So if you don't know where to start, or if you need some inspiration for what to watch next, you can check them out. They're my all-time favorites. I do have to warn though, I love sad stories. I love crying. So some of them are a little bit sad. And maybe in the future, I'm gonna make a video talking about my favorite K-dramas. Who knows? Let me know what you think about this whole topic. Let me know how you feel watching American TV shows versus K-dramas. If you have ever noticed a difference and how they make you feel. I would also be super happy if you follow and subscribe. See you in the next video.